Hello. Welcome back to Are You Ready for Your Inspection podcast. My name is Vanessa Dooley. I am the founder of Jigsaw Early Years Consultancy, where there are a team of 8 of us in the Jigsaw business, 5 in the studio, 3 in the field, and we are here to support you on not only to help you get ready for your inspections, but also to help you raise the game, add impact into things that you're doing into your setting. And if we give you some golden nuggets of information that's going to help you get through the week, then our job is done. So today's podcast is another solo podcast, and I want to talk about if you've got a grade in your setting that you don't want to have, basically. So obviously there are 4 grades that you will be judged on in your inspection. So outstanding, good, requires improvement, and grade 4 is inadequate. So I just wanted to talk to you about the grade descriptors for in the education inspection framework. In the inspector's handbook, it says about requires improvement. So if you have a requires improvement one, this is where one or more of the provisions work requires improvement. The overall effectiveness is likely to requires improvement. Safeguarding is effective. And actually, if there are any breaches of EYFS requirements, they do not have a significant impact on children's safety, well-being, or learning and development. So we're going to focus on today's podcast on the grading requires improvement, and nobody likes any type of grading where it's not what you expected. So in today's inspections, since January 24, your inspector will be saying along the way a little bit more, guiding you of where they are seeing you, where you're sitting, and where, they'll be reading the statutory framework, they'll be reading the education inspection framework, they'll be reading their Bible, basically, their toolkit, to actually demonstrate what they are finding, and it's up to you to either counteract that and say, well, actually, this is this, come and see this. So it'll be up to you really to think about what you are doing. So I wanted to talk to you about requires improvement, because it's really, really hard when you get requires improvement. So if you are already a requires improvement setting, you will be re-inspected between 6 and 12 months, okay? It will be a notified inspection, so you will get the call the day before, which will give you that little bit of time. So this podcast, we're going to just be focusing on requires improvement. So one of the things I will say to you is, really good piece of advice that we take with us in the Jigsaw studio. But one piece of advice is you need to give yourself 24 hours. 24 hours. That is all you need to be giving yourself. So when you get a grade like that, you are going to be going through such a range of emotions. And I always say, and we always do it in the studio, you can cry, you can rant, you can snot, you can shout, you can blub, you can do whatever, but you've only got 24 hours. Then from that, after 24 hours, you draw a line in the sand. You don't talk about the inspection and what didn't go wrong and blaming who it was. Was it you? Was it the inspector? You can't go into that blame culture. You have to move on from it. So first piece of advice is give yourself 24 hours. Now, some people say, actually 24 hours is not enough. Some people say 24 hours is too long. But I know you can do whatever you want. But I know in the way that we are in the studio, we do this. And we go, give ourselves 24 hours. Something didn't go right. Let's all cash it out, rant and rave it. But after then, we come in the next day and we go, right, this is what we're going to be working on. Okay, so thinking about things that requires improvement in your setting, would be things like, and again, if you listen to the Outstanding podcast, I'm talking about each of your rooms, and this is exactly the same. If you're a preschool or a childminder listening to this, you luckily you've only got one room to think about. Okay, so this is where curriculum is not extending children's learning and development. It's not planned, it's not concise, and this is where it is not consistent, and the quality of interactions from your staff team and is variable. So you'll go in one room and it will be amazing, and you'll go in another room and it'll be like there's limited interactions. And actually, this is where you're missing those opportunities because you're not interacting with children to extend those learning opportunities, those next steps, those intentions of knowing what your key child can do and knowing what to do to make it better. So that's where it comes into play. It could be, that you've got some of these things that you need to be making sure on your thinking about what the Education Inspection Framework says, and the inspector's handbook. It says that actually safeguarding is effective. It doesn't impact the children, and that's when if it's not effective, it goes to inadequate. But for today's podcast, we're just going to be looking at requires improvement, and I would find requires improvement the hardest report to write, if I'm honest with you, as an early years inspector. Because you've got good points and you've got strengths and you've got weaknesses, and you amalgamate that report and it comes out with requires improvement, and that's really hard because you do this well and then this doesn't go so well. So things like, for example, is making sure that recruitment and induction procedures are up together and they're implemented appropriately, making sure that actually the staff interaction with each other is really appropriate, and actually there is more communication in the setting between staff members, that you can actually ensure that is happening, and what you need to be working on. So thinking about providing more daily opportunities. For example, I'm going to give an example for, say, physical play. So actually, if you're seeing that there is no example of physical play, so maybe children don't go outside, maybe it's raining, and you get those staff members who actually don't want to go outside, and however much they're kitted out, they don't want to go outside and do all of that. They don't. They're cold. They don't like it. They don't. And actually there is limited, and you get the staff that just stand around. We used to say it was a huddle of blue because our uniform was always blue, and there used to be a huddle of blue and pockets in the outside area, and it'd be like, you need to spread, you need to interact. So actually making sure that children have access to outside, whether it's going to a park on a daily walk or whether it's your outside area, and actually they need to be able to explore and enjoy physical play. That's one of the things that I would say is making sure that you're doing that. Another thing would be is ensuring that accidents and injuries are recorded and shared with parents on a timely manner. Now, you get this all of the time. I get this. It's the fact that actually, I'm going to give you an example of this, that this hasn't had a negative impact on children, because those accidents and incidents, they have been recorded, but parents have not signed them. So there's no negative impact. However, if a child has a bump to the head and parents have not signed it, that could have a negative impact on those children because it's a head bump injury. So can you see the difference between the accidents, the general tripping of accidents, to the ones that actually causes, and we know what a bump head injury is, and we know that we need to contact parents, and we know that they need to sign it. So the difference between those two, one would be that you would get a requires improvement because those parents are not signing it, but those accidents are minimal and there's not much risk and there's not much negative impact on children. Whereas a bump to the head does have negative impact on those children, because you have no idea what's happening with those children. So that gives you an example of the difference between requires improvement and an inadequate. And also improving, another thing for requires improvement is improving the quality of teaching and implementing an ambitious curriculum. If you're struggling with curriculum, let us know. We have a really good and amazing online Devise Your Own curriculum. I know you could be doing Development Matters, and I know you can be doing Birth to 5, but how great would it be if you could do your own curriculum? And we will get Anthony to put them in the show notes. But this is our Devise Your Own curriculum has even been mentioned in Ofsted reports from a setting that was gone from inadequate to a good, because we went in and supported them, and actually that has helped them with the them to achieve a grade that they want, because they decided, or we decided, to actually go and create our own curriculum, and it was sequenced, ambitious, and clear, and children were all part of that curriculum. So that was really important. Anyway, we're digressing. Curriculum, you need to be making sure that your curriculum is really, really important, and that actually you understand what that is happening in your setting, and that your children have a clear understanding of, or the key worker has a clear understanding of what the next change is, next, what's the next intention? If you're a preschool, I always remember this. When I used to go and do inspections for preschools, and my husband would say, is it a committee run preschool? And I would say, yes, it is. He would like, well, that's your 48 hours gone writing that report. And believe you me, it used to take me longer than 48 hours to write a requires improvement report. I can guarantee it. Used to really dislike them. So if you're not, so for example, so remember where I said to you, requires safeguarding is effective. We're on requires improvement. Safeguarding is effective, and it has no impact on those children if we think so. For example, say that you've got committee members, right, and you've not informed any changes to those committee members to Ofsted. They don't come into the setting, so there's no negative impact on those children. It will go down, because you've not let Ofsted know, it will go down a requires improvement thing, because you've not informed Ofsted of new committee members, and they're unable to check the suitability of those committee members. But those committee members don't come in. But say the committee member is an active member of the staff, and you've not informed them, then that will be a negative impact, because they have come into contact with children. Okay. Another thing would be is if you are not supporting, coaching, training to identify and target any staff members that you think are need more knowledge, the weaker staff members who have limited knowledge about the EYFS, have limited knowledge about the understanding of their roles and responsibility. That could give you a requires improvement. So those are some things that I'm and it's, believe you me, if you get requires improvement, I hear you, especially if you go down the bit that you've not informed Ofsted about committee member. Honestly, that's a nightmare. So if you are listening to this and you've got a committee, make sure that you inform Ofsted of any of those committee members. And so I am hoping that helps you with the requires improvement one. There are many other things that I can think of, and I'm trying to give, I've got a few things in here about understanding about what you need to do. So staff supervision and making sure that you're raising the quality of teaching. That's what you need to be ensuring that you're doing to ensure that you get a good and not a requires improvement. Strengthen especially on primary, strengthen your staff's knowledge of understanding those prime areas. That's key. That's what you need to be ensuring that you're doing. And also actually supporting children's emotional and positive and promoting their behaviour in a setting. That's what you need to be making sure. Now, you might be listening to this podcast and you've got an inadequate, and you're thinking, okay, the next one, that we've got, or you've been inspected, you were inadequate, and then you've got a requires improvement. If that's the case, give yourself some slack, because you've gone up. Okay, you've not gone down or stayed the same. Okay, so again, 24 hours. Give yourself 24 hours to actually show that you can cry, snot, go through all those emotions, and then come together to put an action plan together with your team on how you can do it. And think about the what. The what is it they said? The so what? What's the impact of what they've said? And now what? What are we going to do to make it better? So again, think about those types of things when you get requires improvement. I hope that helps if you're listening to this and you've got a requires improvement and want to get out of it, or if you've just received a requires improvement and you're just going down that whole spiraling loop again. I hear you, I see you, I feel you, I get that. But actually give yourself those 24 hours, like I said, and go and have a listen to one of the other podcasts, especially the ones that, we were talking about how to get outstanding and how to be good. And, one of the things is, can you go from RI to outstanding? Yes, you can. You just need to prove that you're constantly reflecting on everything that you are doing. So let me know how you get on. I hope this podcast helps, and I will see you very, very soon. Take good care.